I have been, as long as I can remember, a fan of ideas and a student of leadership, and especially creative leadership. And I consider myself still a student. Creative leadership in both senses of that term. To me, how can a leader be creative in her or his leadership role? And secondly, how can a leader create an organization that inspires people, that nurtures ideas, and that rewards people for innovation and for breakthrough ideas? A culture. The two things to me that have always been the most important are the setting of a vision and then the creation of a culture that will cause people to passionately pursue and realize that vision. It's a never-ending process, but it can be very, very gratifying indeed. The third thing I wanted to say is that I believe creativity is the most powerful force in business, and that if we do not develop creative leaders, then the leadership of creative companies will be taken over by people who are not sensitive to innovation and creativity. If we do not train creative leaders, then someone else will come in and fill the gaps at the top of our companies, and we will be denied the most powerful force in business, that of creativity. So I'm anxious to take a lot of notes. I'm going to learn. I always learn from Michael. Now I'm going to learn from Doug, and I'll learn from all of you, and look forward to spending all of the modules except the next one, where I do have to be at Sundance. And I will try to beam something to you just to let you know that I'm thinking about you as we're watching all these films. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course, you can create culture from scratch. And you can do it. Sometimes an iconic figure does emerge in the process. You can write a book that becomes the Bible for everybody in the organization. But mostly, it's about sitting down with the key people in your group and arriving at what I would call a brand concept for your organization. And there are many definitions of brand, and my own is that a brand is who you are, what you do, why you do it, and how you do it. And the process for arriving at that can be easily described. It will end up in a brand concept which has a strongly held point of view, out of which flows a promise, which is explicit or implicit. And then those two are clothed in a third P, which is personality. If you get those three understood by the organization, then you can really go. Germans are still the biggest newspaper reading country in the world. And there is a transfer of a certain mentality to advertising that says, I want facts and news in my advertising. And so it is very refreshing when we can do advertising like Amir is doing, like the two little boys on the steps, where not a word is spoken. But I think the German Art Directors Club, the founder of this school, is really working hard to change that. German press advertising is better, and some German poster advertising is outstanding. If you look at the award shows and the records over the past 20 years, Germany does not show well in these. I don't know, if we had a day or so, we could talk about what I've learned from failures. I think the lesson you learn there is to be careful who you give your trust to. I've always believed, and I told David when Doug was talking about naivete, maybe this is one of my failings, but I have always valued a certain naivete. That I, as a matter of principle, grant everyone trust until they prove they don't deserve it, as opposed to questioning everybody until they prove they deserve it. And once in a while, that has gotten me in trouble. But the reason I value naivete is a statement made by Buckminster Fuller, who said, "Dare to be naive." And the way I translate that is that, and this is why we were able to form Omnicom, because we didn't know it couldn't be done. We were too naive to know all the reasons that the lawyers and the accountants and the investment banks would have brought to the party. And we never would have done it. So because we didn't know it could be done, we said, we will do it, and we did it. The first thing I would say there is, and you'll find this in the little gray book, where Bill said, people are always talking about changing man. Communicators should be concerned about unchanging man. And with his obsessive drives, basic human drives, to survive, to be loved, to be admired, to succeed, to take care of one's own, to be entertained even. Those things will never change. So the importance of brand is not diminished by all these new techniques. It's increased. If you ever saw and brand means something. People pay for brands. It's about self-esteem. You know, why am I drinking this brand of beer? It says something about me. I don't know if you've ever seen Arthur Miller's play, Death of a Salesman, but Willie comes home one day from another unsuccessful day and goes to the fridge. It's not working. And he says, "Charlie down the hall has a Frigidaire." And he kicks this refrigerator and says, "Who ever heard of a Hastings refrigerator?" It says something about Willie to Willie. The importance of brand, that will not change. The importance of storytelling will not change. Since the early days of cave painters, people have communicated through stories. And what we're just starting now in the digital area is to figure out how to do stories, interactive stories, where the consumer or the person on the other end is helping us create the story. That will not change. Most of all, the importance of an idea will not change. Now, what changes, of course, are several things that come to mind very quickly. The first is, we used to set the time and place of appointment where the engagement would take place. No longer. Now the consumer sets time, place. Consumer decides when, where, whether, if to join with us in engagement. So that means we have to engage the consumer with messages or experiences they choose to spend time with. May even want to, like with the Budweiser work that was TiVo'd, copied, sent to YouTube, whatever. So it has to be so entertaining or so informative that people will choose to attend to it, because we don't set the appointment anymore. Second thing that changes, dramatic change for creative people, very tough. It used to be one way, me to you. Let me entertain you, let me make you smile. I'm very versatile. Now it's two together. We have to create. So it's more like the mentality of a game designer, perhaps. I mean, somebody came up with the idea of Lara Croft, but it's nothing until somebody plays Tomb Raider. So that's a big change. Another big change is we used to talk about selling a product on TV. Now it's almost less about product than a brand experience that you create, that the consumer plays a part of. I think, you know, iPod is a pretty good example from TBWA, where you have, it starts with design of the product, then you see the iconic images along the roadway or at the telephone kiosk or the bus, and you think, you know, I'll bet my playlist is about like that guy's playlist. I'll bet I'm cool, and I have those, because I have that in my pocket. When I put the white chords against my black jacket, I think, you know, I could be up there on that board. And then the commercial comes on online or on television, and it's all part of a brand experience, as opposed to saying, look at what's in this product. That's different. And more, there are a few other things, but this is the last one I'll mention because I think we touched on it in one of the cases, or maybe we didn't. There was some reference to it. In the blogosphere, buying, and with a much more educated and informed consumer, buying decisions in the future will be made much more on what a company stands for and how it behaves in the global community than on what the product is. Than what the product is. And so those, and former times, one could say that we could attach those values, export them from nowhere and put them on the brand, but now you can't do that. They have to be there because the bloggers will get you within minutes. I think the United States has, as a country, has fallen behind in terms of the level of creativity. I'm not quite sure why that is. I think that clients have become, I do know this as a statistical fact, that the average life of a CEO, well, at least somebody gave this to me as a statistic. You might know differently. But the head of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce said that the average life of a CEO in the United States today is 3.5 to 5 years. That's right. And the average life of a chief marketing officer is 18 months. So when you have this kind of churn, and when you don't have CEOs, who, you know, a CEO has to be concerned about brand. And when you don't have a CEO who's concerned about that, then these minions below will grind up they're empowered to say no, and they'll take the safe way. And so I think we're going to see, first of all, more of that as the financial situation worsens, and then we're going to see a breakthrough like Burnback when somebody says, watch this. I can take your puny little dollars and make them work like a million. The people will say, we did it ourselves. And that is enormously gratifying. And it also allows you to expand infinitely. There is no limits to how much you can expand if people are empowered to do it themselves. It's like love, really. I mean, if you want love, you have to give it away. And in many ways, given trust, if you want power, the way to get it is to give it away.